First of all, thanks, Alexander. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to talk to the Ukrainian PHP community, even if it's not all that interactive and I'm just communicating with you. Unfortunately, this year I didn't have the opportunity to come in person. Not promising anything, but maybe next year. Thanks everyone for using PHP and for offering me the opportunity to contribute to this conference.
Great. Okay, then some questions. Uh, our conference is about PHP frameworks. Last year, Rasmus Lerdorf visited our conference, and we asked him about his opinion about frameworks. His answer was pretty shocked. He said frameworks suck. That was a kind of joke, and then he explained his opinion, but we also very interested in your opinion about frameworks. Do you think they're useful? What is the best framework for this moment? What is the plans for Zen framework? So please.
Okay, so I think it would be pretty shocking if I said that I think that frameworks suck, especially considering we and my people for my team, Matthew Finney and Enrico and other contributors from the community are working on one of the popular PHP frameworks, Zen framework. So I definitely don't think that frameworks suck. I think they absolutely are useful. I think I said back in 2005 or 6 that in my opinion, to a large degree, most of the innovation should move from PHP and into the layers above PHP, the frameworks and the applications. And essentially that there's no need to put each and every feature that someone can imagine into the language core. I think that fast forward to 2014, I think that frameworks are absolutely useful. I think that the interoperability that exists today between frameworks, well, essentially it's not like it was 10 or even 5 years ago where when you would buy into a framework, it would kind of, in many cases, not always, but in many cases, it would be an all or nothing choice. I mean, if you buy into a framework, you need to use the MVC and use the whole structure of the framework in order to really take advantage of it. I think that today it's changing, and we are more and more moving towards components, and frameworks are kind of, in a way, becoming more and more collections of components that you can mix and match components between different frameworks. And we're seeing that already. We're seeing some of the big open source applications in the PHP world moving to use components from Symfony, to use components from framework. And you can say that there are Zen framework or Symfony applications, but they are using components from those frameworks. So just to kind of summarize the answer to your first question, I absolutely think that frameworks are very, very useful. The idea behind them that essentially they prevent you from needing to reinvent the wheel again and again and make you a lot more productive. I think that this has been true in the past and it's still true today. To your second question, your two other questions I think are more difficult to answer because, you know, I've been known to be quite non-religious about not only frameworks but also about even languages. So if someone asks me what is better, PHP or, you know, whatever other language that you can come up with, I'm usually not going to tell them, look, of course you must use PHP, it's better than anything. I would say that there's a lot of variables that feed into your particular decision of what fits your needs. Sometimes if you already know, I don't know, Ruby or Python or whatever, not sure that it makes sense for you to learn some other language, whether it's PHP or not. But if you know PHP, then it's obviously an advantage. If you want to start with an existing application instead of starting from scratch, then in many cases PHP has that and other languages do not. But it's a very complex question, and I don't have a religious, quote-unquote, answer that you must always use PHP. In the same way, I'm not advocating any one framework as the best framework. I think that Zen Framework 2 is a very, very powerful framework and one of the best ones that are out there. I think that Matthew O'Finney, that is leading the development of this framework, is doing an amazing job together with a very solid team of contributors from the community. Ultimately, which framework you want to choose between all the available frameworks, I think it's a very individual decision depending on what you need, depending on the nature of the project and the technologies that you're going to have to use in it. And like I said in the beginning of the answer, it's quite possible that you're not going to choose just one framework, but rather pick components from different frameworks. And I think that Composer and the fact that the standards, interoperability standards that exist today that didn't exist a few years ago, are making it a much better experience and much more practical experience for developers to mix and match the components that they need. Regarding Framework 3, the only thing I can say at this point is that we've begun talking about what we want to do, where we want to go forward from ZF2. I don't have any details that I can share at this point just yet. I can share that I think it's unlikely that it's going to be available in the very near future. It's going to take some time, but I think that as soon as we, and when I say we, I'm talking about both the team in Zen that is leading the Zen framework project, but also the community review team that is really deeply integrated with not just the development of the framework, but also the decisions about the roadmap. When we have a fairly solid idea of where we want to go, then obviously we're going to share it with everyone.
Great. Thank you for answer. Next question is, what do you think about solutions that came up some time ago, like hip hop from Facebook?
So first, this is a bit of a complicated question. I think that HHVM is probably the first credible runtime for PHP that is not coming from PHP.NET. That's it's not essentially a new phenomenon. We used to have all sorts of other implementations of PHP in the past, but to be perfectly honest, they never managed to reach neither the level of compatibility with PHP and also not the level of interest that HHVM has. So I think that HHVM is a bit of a different story. I still think that PHP, the official PHP that is coming from PHP.NET, has the benefit of being essentially the de facto standard. And while we do have initiatives to have a language standard definition and so on, and which, by the way, I think is a good initiative, I still think that PHP, again, the official runtime that is available from PHP.NET is going to stay the de facto standard for the PHP community. Now, I think that HHVM, I think the most appealing element in HHVM is the performance gains. That's the main thing that people talk about as they evaluate the possibility of looking into HHVM. And as I assume you've heard, we've been working on improving PHP's performance for essentially for a very, very long time. One of our key developers, Dmitry Stogov, has been improving the performance of PHP very substantially since, well, almost since forever. I think that even since PHP 4. But if you look at the performance improvements since PHP 5.3, you can see a very continuous, gradual, and consistent improvements in performance between all of the different versions of PHP. 5.4 is significantly faster than 5.3, 5.5 is significantly faster than 5.4. There are more modest gains in 5.6, but of course the biggest announcement in that front has been PHP-NG, the next generation engine, that has been officially accepted to be the foundation for the next major version of PHP, PHP 7. And performance-wise, it more or less matches HHVM. And when I say more or less, I literally mean more or less. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, but it's always, well, almost always within a few percent from HHVM. And we have absolutely every intention to continue together with the community to improve the performance of PHP. So going back to your question, what I take from it is I think I agree in that regard with one of the HHVM developers and an internals contributor, Sarah Goldman, that her point of view is that competition is good, essentially. Even though we would have probably invested in performance even without HHVM, I think that HHVM being there and showing us in some cases what's possible in terms of performance and what target we should aim for, I think it did make some difference. Maybe not a strategic difference because we try to do as much as we can, but still it was very useful in some of the tests. Specifically, I think it was WordPress, to see how fast HHVM manages to run it and compare our proof of concepts to how HHVM was doing. So all in all, I think that competition is good. I still think that it's good that the PHP.NET implementation would be the official, quote-unquote, implementation. But ultimately, I think that end users being able to choose and to decide what, based on a variety of factors, which version, which it's not exactly version, but which build, which technology they want to use. I think that's a good thing. And regarding integration, integration in the case of HHVM, it's a far-reaching step, because it's really it reuses some of the code of PHP, but generally it's sitting in C++ and it's completely different. So integration is difficult, but I think what we can talk about is cross-pollination. So definitely ideas from HHVM making it into PHP, and of course vice versa, and potentially in some cases also implementations of specific pieces of code being cross-used between those two projects. So that is already happening, and I believe that it's going to continue to happen. But at this point, at least, I think both the HHVM developers as well as the PHP.NET developers don't see integrating parts of the HHVM codebase into the PHP.NET codebase as something that is likely to happen in the foreseeable future. I think that for now we are talking about PHP 7 based on PHP-NG. We are hoping to push that out before the end of 2015, which is an aggressive timeline, but we believe is doable. And that's probably going to keep our hands busy, not just for this year until we release it, but also beyond that. We're probably going to have maintenance releases and continued improvements in 7.1, 7.2. But there's this quote, I think, that making predictions is difficult, especially about the future. So it's difficult to know where things will take us. We can probably talk with relative safety at least until the end of 2015 and early 2016.
Okay, and the last questions you already a bit answered, but what are the plans regarding the future of PHP? What are the most important features and so on?
Okay, so basically, as you said, I mentioned already PHP 7, and so far I focused mainly on the performance improvements. I think that in PHP 7, especially given the aggressive timeline we're talking about, the goal would be twofold. One is to deliver a stable version of PHP that has all of those performance benefits of PHP-NG, so performance essentially. And two, implement whatever, if any, compatibility breaking features that, based on the release process RFC, we are only allowed to do in a major version. So version 7 gives us an opportunity to break compatibility if we need to, and it's a big if, and I think we're going to evaluate each proposal that implies compatibility breakage on a case-by-case basis. I hold the position for a long time that compatibility is not a binary thing. It's not that if version 7 is not compatible with version 5.6, so it doesn't matter how many different things we break. Basically, the more compatibility we break, the more difficult it is for people to migrate from 5.6 to 7. And we don't want people to have a hard time upgrading. We want them to have the best performance. We want them to have the most recent version so that they're secure and so on and so forth. And we don't want to have to continue supporting old versions for a very long time like we had to do with PHP 4. So ideally, we wouldn't have too many compatibility breakages, but whatever we would identify that we need to break within the next 5 years, we would probably want to break it now. Instead of waiting and then essentially not being able to do it until version 8. So those are the two kind of inherent elements of PHP 7, the performance and the compatibility breakage. Now, in addition to those, there are absolutely going to be additional features that people are working on, and some of them have already been implemented. Those who know me know that I'm senile, so I'm not going to try and remember them all, but there are several ones that have already been implemented. One is the abstract syntax tree proposal that has been implemented. I think the 64-bit patch that didn't make it into 5.6 is going to make it in some in the updated form into PHP 7, and there's a bunch of other RFCs that either have been accepted or that we are going to work on for PHP 7. We do have a timeline RFC, which is at wiki.php.net/rfc/php7 timeline. And essentially what we're saying there is that we have time until the middle of March 2015 to introduce any RFCs. Essentially, people have until mid-March 2015 to introduce any RFCs that they would like to include in PHP 7. So we will only know what PHP 7 looks like feature-wise with some level of certainty in, I guess, March 16. And from that point onwards, it will be about implementation and testing and stabilization until we release towards the end of 2015.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay? Okay then, have a great conference.